how did the area get to be like three cities? And then you have the US Mexico border like cutting through it. Historically, how did that all happen?
Historically, well, I think, well, we have El Rio Grande, right? And if you look back into the history, I mean, this part of Texas, California was actually from Mexico, and then they sold it, so it becomes the states, right?
Hmm.
So back in the day, we didn't have what we have right now, which is the immigration stations, because we have four international bridges. Okay, so you can cross back and forth through each one of these. And back in the day, honestly, people didn't even needed a visa, didn't even needed a passport just to come to the States. A lot of people, what they did is that just I'm going shopping, and they let you go into the country, and then after you finish your shopping spree, you go back and you're fine. So everything evolved basically. And to me, it's really funny because the same street that connects a lot of kind of like the freeway in El Paso, it's the same street that connects Juarez. So it's just one street. It's just that we have this the immigration stations basically in the middle of it that separates both countries. And you also have El Rio Grande, no? Which is the river that actually connects a lot of the part of the border. And it's crazy, man. It's crazy. And to me, it's just really strange because I'm driving sometimes through the freeway here in El Paso, and I can see Juarez, and I can see the plaza, and I can see some of the places that I grew up going to, like the parks or stuff like that. So yes, I mean, we've always been connected. We've always, I mean, I think we consider El Paso Juarez is just one big community. And of course, you also have Las Cruces, but Las Cruces is on this side of New Mexico, right? So yes, we're pretty much very close to one another. And you're going to have people from Las Cruces coming to El Paso, going to Juarez, going back. So yes, we're pretty much interconnected.
So how does that work right now with like visas and immigration and things like that?
Okay, so for example, right now, since COVID, they shut down the bridges pretty much. So only US citizens and US residents are allowed to go into Mexico and come back.
Okay.
Basically, they can come into the country because they are citizens or residents, right? So people from Mexico cannot cross to El Paso. Basically, if you are a student, you are allowed to because you're coming to campus and classes are in person, so you're allowed to come into the country. But yes, basically, you have to go through a really rigorous immigration process where you go to the American consulate in Juarez, you apply for an appointment to get your visa, your tourist visa. And if they approve, then you are given the opportunity to come into the States. If they deny you that visa, then you're not allowed to come into the country. So yeah,
Even though it's like a couple miles away.
exactly, because we have the international bridges, and of
Yeah.
course there's people right there. I mean,
Yeah.
and they know if they ask you for the visa and you're like, I don't have one, then go back. Like you cannot come into the country. Yes,
Yeah. Yeah. It seems intense.
it is.
Um,
It is.
yeah. Uh, huh. So is that like a big topic of discussion all the time?
For us, not so much because it's
Okay.
just so common. It's our everyday, you know.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, like growing up, I always had a visa, so my parents would bring me to El Paso, and I would go to the mall, and I would go to McDonald's, and I would go to Wendy's, Burger King to eat. They would take me to toy stores. So I mean, of course, it's always a topic of discussion being here in the border, having the wave of migrants coming from Central America. It's always going to be a topic of discussion here in the city, just because we are basically in the middle of it, because we are at the
Yeah.
border. So yeah, I think it's one of the topics that really gets the most attention, probably nationwide, internationally.
Yeah.
Also here in the city, it's very prominent just because of where we are and who we are.